Hello, hello, hello. How are you guys doing today? Happy Friday. Oh my gosh, I am having such a fantastic day today. I have just been sitting around reading. I just finished listening to The September House. I gave it 3 out of 5 stars. I did not love the book, but I'm happy that I got it done. And then I started the new Alex Cross book, which is called Target Alex Cross. So that's the second one for September, and then once I finish that, I'm going to read the third one, and then I will be completely caught up with all of the Alex Cross books. I decided that I was just going to take the day and just read and listen to audiobooks and just relax, and I have had just such a wonderful day. After I took the dogs out and stuff this morning, I sat out here and I drank some water and did my prayers and meditations and just kind of sat with nature for a little bit. And I felt good all day long. I just felt so good all day long. I was actually sitting out here earlier reading. I finished the Pumpkin Spice Cafe book last night, and I started the Cinnamon Bun bookstore. I started that last night. So I was sitting out here today and I was reading that, and I read a chapter of the Frida McFadden book, and this is probably about 2 hours ago, and I made this cup of coffee. It's my very last cup of the blueberry crumble, and this was 2 hours ago, and I don't know if you can see, but there's still tons of coffee. I had 2 sips of it, so I think it's probably a little bit cold. We'll see. It's lukewarm. It's lukewarm, but it's still pretty good. It's still pretty good. I think since this is the last K-cup of blueberry crumble, that means that summer is officially over. Because the last blueberry crumble, which, I mean, that's not necessarily a summer flavor of coffee, but I kind of feel like it is. So since the last, well, maybe it's kind of more of a fall. I don't know. I don't know. I'll probably buy some more here in a week, but the last blueberry crumble is being had right now on the vlog. And so that means that summer is officially over. Summer was officially over a couple days ago when the official, I guess that was Monday, wasn't it? I think it was the first official day of fall. I don't know. But yeah, I've had a great day today. Okay, so I want to say something before I get into this vlog. Yesterday, my vlog that I did, and I think I titled it something like, I didn't expect to talk about this or whatever. I got into this conversation about my spiritual beliefs and how they started and kind of my journey with my spiritual beliefs and all of that stuff. And, it's interesting when I get into a deep conversation like that over here. I've asked you guys a lot, what is it you like to hear on the vlog? And the vlogs are really cathartic for me. It's just really nice to sit here and, talk for an hour. And I feel like it's such a privilege that you guys allow me into your lives to, listen to me for an hour to an hour and a half and just listen to what I have to say, which is so random. But I try to talk about things that I think people enjoy over here, which is why I kind of give what my mom would have called back in the day a press conference of, when my mom, when she was in therapy, she would say, that for years she wasted therapy because she would just go and do what was a press conference. And she'd say, Monday I did this, Tuesday I did this, Wednesday, instead of really talking about real stuff. And so I feel like over time, the vlog has to some degree turned into kind of a press conference where I will be oh, these are the shows I watched last night, or these are the books that I read, yesterday, or this is what me and the dogs did today, or these are the videos that I filmed. I think it's just kind of a way for me to get started on the vlog because, just to sit here and just be okay, today I want to talk about this. I don't really ever go into this with any kind of idea of what I'm going to talk about, which is why I titled that vlog yesterday, I didn't expect to talk about this, because I didn't. I had no clue that I was going to go off into that direction. When I sit down here to vlog, or if I sit inside or wherever, I just am, all I know is that I'm going to start and be hey you guys, happy Friday, how are you doing today? That's all I know. Usually I know I'm going to start with a time and temperature check, but I haven't even been doing that every day recently. So anyway, I've asked a couple times in the last couple weeks, what people, want to hear over here. And people have said that, varying things, that they like to hear about the books and they like to hear about the TV shows. And so I kept on doing that because I don't know, I thought that was what people seem to like. And then I did this vlog yesterday And it was this long conversation of me talking about my spiritual beliefs and, you know, where they started. And if you didn't watch yesterday's vlog, and please go watch it. And if you did, I appreciate you watching it. But it was this whole conversation kind of about like growing up and going to church and what that meant to me and getting sober and my spiritual journey and things like that. And to be honest with you, when I got done with the vlog yesterday, I thought people are going to be so bored with this. Like, this is, I think people are going to be so bored with this vlog. I never really have a very good read on what I think people are going to be interested in, you know? And I thought, people are going to be so bored with this. And it was interesting because I posted the vlog last night, and then last night I got like 2 or 3 direct messages from people saying like, oh my god, thank you so much for this vlog, like I really needed to hear this vlog. And you know, other people, this morning I woke up and there was a lot of really nice comments on the vlog. People were like, this is this is the kind of vlogs that I miss that you did back in the day. And people, I got a lot of like really nice direct messages today of people saying like, being very encouraging of like, oh, these are the vlogs I like. And so I really, really appreciate that. The thing about it is this, right? I love sitting and having deep conversations in my personal life with Tanya Jean, with, you know, Alex, with my therapist, with my sponsor, with Nikki, with Mel, with all my friends in my life, people, Caroline. I love having deep conversations, you know? When I would come over here back in the day, this is where I never know where things are going to go, because I thought I was going to make this, I was going to say thank you for giving me that feedback. I really appreciate it. And I would like to do more conversations like that. What I was going to say was, before I get into this whole thing with my mom, because that'll take me in a different direction, probably into a conversation that maybe you guys will like. I don't know. But what I was going to say was, I know that there are people that like to hear like the press conference part of like what I did and what TV shows. And I'm not going to stop doing that over here. I mean, but you know, like, I think I'm going to start with that, and then, you know, we'll see where the conversations go from there. The thing I was going to say was that, like yesterday, I didn't know that I was going to have that conversation. I didn't know that I was going to be talking about those things. It just kind of like took off from like one random thing that I said, you know? And I was even going to ask you guys, like, well, what are topics you would like me to talk about? I mean, you please put in the comment section below topics that you'd like me to talk about, whether it's like, you want to hear stories about my mom, or you want to hear stories about my dad and I, or, you know, my dad and my stepmom and I, and, you know, trips we took, or memories that I have, or holidays, and, you know, just things that I, like, went through when I was growing up, or, you know, there's not a lot that I'm not willing to talk about over here. And I think also after, like, I'm coming up on, you know, the end of 9 years of vlogging, to some degree, I feel like I've talked about everything, you know, like, when I tell a story, I'm kind of like, I feel like I've told this story, like even the conversation yesterday, I feel like I'd had that conversation so many times in the past. So I'm willing to talk about whatever you guys want me to talk about, and tell stories about my past and reflect on things that I've learned. I love having those conversations. Those are the things the fact that anybody wants to hear those things from me is so meaningful to me. It really, really is. But I also want it to be natural. Like, I don't want it to just be like, okay, I'm going to talk about grief today. You know what I mean? Like, that's a lot of what I do on my Peterisms channel. And so, and I can do that over here, but I also kind of like it to flow naturally, you know? So I am going to do like a little bit of like what I did the last 24 hours and just kind of, you know, see where it flows from here. Because I know people want to know like what's going on with the dogs, and, you know, and I know people get a lot of recommendations from the TV shows that I watch and the books that I read. So I will be talking a little bit about that. I guess maybe I didn't realize so much that I'd kind of gotten away from having the meaningful conversations over here, you know, and I was thinking about it. I think, like, when I would drive and vlog, I just was kind of like, you know, like sitting here in a chair, it does feel different to me. I really enjoy sitting on the front porch and the people walking by, and, you know, it's different because I look at the tree and I see the animals and my neighbors walk by, and I feel very centered and at peace. I think that when I was driving around and I was vlogging, I think it, obviously I'm a very stream of consciousness kind of person anyway, you know, but I think it led even more so to me just talking about random things. You know, I would just like constantly thinking about random things. I'm a random person anyway, but I think even more so. And maybe that's to some degree why I've gotten away from it a little bit. I don't know. I mean, it's not intentional. But I love having those meaningful conversations. And I just have to say, there were several of you that commented yesterday and said, like, these are the conversations I miss you having over here. And that meant so much to me. Like, that is such a compliment. I guess I just don't know, like, what those conversations, like, I just don't want to, like, come on here. I want it to be natural. I don't want to just come on here and be like, okay, today I'm going to talk about this. But if there's specific things you guys like, I mean, a lot of people say I love when you talk about your mom, which means a lot to me. You know, people say like, oh, I love when you talk about stories with your dad and growing up and whatever, or different experiences that I've had in my life. A lot of people like when I talk about sobriety stuff. I love talking about sobriety. I could make 8 videos a day talking about sobriety, you know? I'm passionate about sobriety and I love talking about it. But I also want it to be like, kind of flow naturally, if that makes sense. Like any conversation I would have with a friend. Otherwise, it feels like a very like pointed video, like I got on here just specifically to talk about that. But like if I'm reading through comments and somebody says, hey, like, would you mind talking about like, you know, like how you felt at first when your mom passed away? Like I talked a little bit about that yesterday too, you know, like, yeah, I would absolutely do that. So feel free to leave those comments in the comment section below. What I was going to say was, some of the most meaningful times of my life were after my mom and I got sober. My mom and I always had, even when we weren't sober, always had deep conversations about stuff. And that's not to say that those conversations were like always, you know, occurred when, like my mom had been drinking. I didn't really drink a lot with my mom. Like if we went over to my aunt's house for Christmas or something like that, or like a dinner, I really hid it a lot from my mom. And I also know that my mom didn't really like it, and so she didn't like me drinking. And so I can remember being like at a family reunion of my dad's and being completely intoxicated. But like with my mom, I never did that. Like she and I never sat around and ever, I honestly don't remember, I'm like thinking back. I don't think I remember one time that I ever like got drunk with my mom, ever. Like at my aunt's house or something, I might have like a beer, or maybe like a glass of wine. But even very rarely do I remember that. You know, but it also would have been like, my mom was, she was very strict about like not drinking until you're 21 with me. And so that wouldn't have occurred until after I was 21. And then I got sober at 22 and a half. So you're talking about like a year and a half, that I would have like drank around my mom. I mean, my mom knew that I drank before I was 21, but like where I would have felt comfortable drinking around my mom. And at that point I had also been, you know, through treatment and outpatient programs and on probation and things like that. Like my mom as a drinker was very critical of my drinking. So, I mean, I can remember conversations that we had where like one time I was like in this outpatient program and I can see it. I was like in front of her house talking to her and she was like, what are you doing tonight? And I said, I like gone over to see her or something. And she said, what are you doing tonight? And I said, well, I was going downtown with some friends of mine. And my mom was like, do you really think that you should do that? And at that point, like, I was drinking and I was in an outpatient program and I think I was court ordered to it or something. And I was like, Mom, I can handle it. Like, you know, like I can be around my friends and not drink. I was fully drinking at that time, you know? But she'd be like, I just don't think that that's a wise choice. Like, I don't think you should be around people if you're trying not to drink. Even though she was drinking. Not like as we were standing there, she wasn't drinking, but like she was drinking, you know, in her life. And so that year and a half, see, this is where like the conversation just flows naturally, and I didn't think that I was going to get into this conversation today, right? This is what I mean, right? Okay, so anyway, I hope this kind of stuff is enjoyable to people. I don't know. But so it really would have been like, you know, so I turned 21, my birthday's June 29th, and then I got sober December 17th of 1994. So from June 29th of 93 until December 17th of 94 was when I would have, like, been publicly drinking around my mom. And not publicly drinking, but I mean, like, I would have gone over, and I never went to a bar with my mom. Like, I don't remember going to a bar with my mom. I don't remember going out to eat with her where I would have gotten a drink. It would have been at my aunt's house. Like, I never had a drink with my mom at her house, you know? Well, she wouldn't have been here yet. She would have been at the house that I grew up in. I don't remember ever having a drink with my mom. Maybe I did. I just don't remember, honestly. I really don't remember. But I don't think so. She and I never bonded over alcohol, ever. We bonded over recovery, but we never bonded over alcohol. Which is interesting because my mom and our drinking was very similar. Like, both of us like to drink alone. I drank a lot out, but I also really enjoyed drinking at home by myself, watching, like, a movie and stuff like that. Which was kind of how my mom's drinking really was. And so, any conversation... So anyway, the reason I'm saying this is that... And then that last, like, I would say, 6 to 9 months were so bad for me. Like, I've talked about this before. I wasn't invited to Thanksgiving in '94. My dad called me and said, you know, you're not really welcome to Thanksgivings. And, like, that includes your Aunt Kathy and things like that, because I was so out of control at that point. And so that would have been, like, well, that would have been November. And then after that was kind of like, I was just off the rails completely. But before that, I even was. Like, everybody knew things were really out of control. And were trying to get me help, and I was just completely resistant to it and stuff like that. Because a lot of people have asked me before, they're like, well, if they knew that you had all these problems, why didn't they get you help? They were trying to. I mean, like, my dad and my stepmom specifically were really trying to get me help during that time. And my mom, I think, was in her own, like, you know, alcohol-induced haze. And so she wasn't, like, I don't think she really got how bad it was. But, I mean, I was 22 at that time, too. You know, you can't, like, I mean, there's ways to force people into treatment, like to do a 72-hour hold with, like, a doctor and a judge. But it's very difficult to do that. And after 72 hours, you can get out, you know? My dad, it's interesting too, like having that conversation with my dad in retrospect. He's like, you know, there's things I could have done. Like, I could have said, I'm not paying your bills anymore. I'm not doing this kind of stuff. I'm not going to help you out financially. And he's like, but I was so scared that you would die. I was so scared of what you would do. Like, I've shared before that he and my stepmom had a conversation, and she was like, you've got to cut him off. Like, because this is just like, you know, this is not helping him, you know, at all. You're enabling him. And my dad was like, if I do, I'm afraid that he'll start, like, stealing from people or prostituting or whatever. And my stepmom was like, how do you know he's not doing that already? And I think that was really kind of like a come to Jesus moment for my dad. That was towards the very end. That was probably like 2 weeks before. They told me that it was probably like 2 weeks before I got sober. The mail's here. And so, like, they had, hey, how are you? Good to see you. But they had mentioned treatment to me a lot, you know, and it wasn't my first treatment. I don't know that they were real convinced that treatment worked. In retrospect, my dad has said to me that he thinks that things had to go the way that they do. I believe that too. Like, I think they had to become so catastrophic for me that it was like I really didn't have any other options at that point, you know, and so... And I'm a firm believer that my bottom was death and I didn't hit it, you know, and I do believe that you can pick your bottom. When you talk about hitting your rock bottom, I do believe that you can pick your rock bottom. I think my rock bottom was my fear of being homeless. Because when I got out of treatment, my dad was like, I'm done. Like, I'm not helping you at all. Like, you either stay sober or I'm done. And he was dead serious, and I knew it. Like, my dad was really, really good friends with the addictionologist that was my doctor. And so, I mean, he was just kind of like, my dad went to him and said, you know, everything I do turns to gold except for my kid. I cannot fix him. Like, you tell me what to do. And he literally did everything that the doctor told him to do. And I think that was my rock bottom. I was like, I knew that, like, my friends were kind of done. You know, and so they weren't going to, I mean, there was going to be no couches I could sleep on after like 2 or 3 weeks, if that makes sense. So I think that, yeah, this is weird that I started this whole conversation off saying, like, I don't know how to get into these conversations, and here I was going to start it off and tell you guys what books I read and what shows I watched last night, and then here I am to this huge conversation about how it all started with my sobriety. But I I think it happened the way that it was supposed to happen for me, or the way that it needed to happen for me. I don't know, like, I don't know, maybe not supposed to happen, but I think it happened the way that it needed to happen for me. Because I think that had it not, I think had I been like, okay, I'm willing to go to treatment, and I'm not, like, I have friends of mine that, like, willingly went into treatment and are sober today and have 20, 30 years of sobriety. I'm not saying that. I'm saying, like, I think for me, this addict, this alcoholic, like, it had to happen that way. I think that, and I am a big believer in consequences for addicts and alcoholics. I think that the more that we shield out addicts and alcoholics from consequences, the less pain they feel. And so, including myself back then, you know, and I think that, you know, I very much look at it as like a weighted scale. Like, you know, here's the time you're having, you know, using and, you know, whatever. And then, like, if the consequences of the not having fun outweigh the having fun, and it's not just having fun, it's getting by. Like, most addicts at the end are not having fun. Like, that's just the reality. Most addicts at the end, alcoholics, are just getting by. Like, it's not really that fun anymore. It's, you know, they talk about, like, there was no giggle left in the bottle. There was some giggle left in the bottle for me. Like, that means there was, like, you're still having good times drinking. I was still having good times partying, but the good times were few and far between. And it was almost like every time I did, I either got into a fight with somebody, or I woke up and I didn't know where I was. There was a lot of missing time. I was blacking out a lot at the end. I was, like, I started noticing, I think this occurred to me about 6 months before I got sober, that I crossed some line where before there were a lot of things, like, I would say, I'm not going to use that, or I'm not going to use this, or, like, I wouldn't do this, or I wouldn't do that. And it was, like, at a point where I was almost kind of like, I would do anything, you know? Or I was even kind of conscious about, like, well, don't eat so many pills while you're drinking, or whatever. But then there was a point where, maybe it was like a year before, where I was kind of like, that kind of went out the window. And then whatever, I didn't even ask anymore. If somebody was like, you know, if they had a pill, I'd just be like, I didn't even ask what it was. And I think that's when it kind of got scary to me, but I also was kind of, like, so out of it. I didn't really care anymore, you know? It's when I went into treatment and my counselor looked at me and she said, like, do you think that you were trying to kill yourself? And I said, no, I've never been like that. I've never had those thoughts and whatever. And she goes, but don't you think you indirectly were? I don't know that was my plan. I don't think that was consciously my plan. I think my plan was that I didn't have a plan, number one, and I didn't really know what my life was going to look like next. And so, but I knew that I couldn't imagine my life without using. I just couldn't imagine it. I just couldn't imagine, like, how I was going to even get through a day. And treatment didn't seem like a realistic option to me, and getting sober didn't seem like a realistic option. So at that point, I really was, you want to talk about living in the moment, I really was living in the moment, like, because that was the best that I could do, was just living in each moment, because I couldn't think. If I had to think about, like, next week, I couldn't do it. I mean, if I had to think about, like, what am I going to do, like, I couldn't think that way at all, you know? And towards the end, like, I dropped out of all my classes, I wasn't going to school, I had no job, and I was, like, really, like, lying to everybody about it. I wasn't, my friends didn't really know. My family definitely didn't know. I mean, my dad and my stepmom had a pretty good idea that things were bad, but they didn't know, like, how bad it was. I've talked about this on here before. Like, I can remember, like, well, two things in retrospect that, like, this girl that I knew back in the day, and I used to even party with her a little bit, but, like, I had dropped out of all my classes, and I would, like, get up, and, so I went to my undergraduate school at IUPUI, which it's not the same anymore, but it was Indiana University, Purdue University at Indianapolis. So, like, a city school. It's at downtown Indianapolis. And so all the buildings are downtown. We would sit outside and smoke cigarettes, drink coffee, and stuff like that. So I would, like, get up late, obviously, from partying the night before, pull myself together, you know, like, drink and, you know, get high, eat a couple pills to where I could just be normal. And then I would, like, go down to school, and I would be sitting there. This was after I dropped out of my classes. I've talked about that. Like, I had this, I was taking a Victorian literature class, and the professor, this is where the stories just go one into the next. Because I ended up seeing her later at Starbucks. If you guys have not heard that story, and I made amends to her, and she was, like, put her hand on my shoulder and said, have a good life. It was, like, this really cool moment in my life. But anyway, I like stayed up all night writing this paper on Middlemarch by George Eliot, which is like a ridiculously long book. It's like 1,200 pages. I don't even know how I wrote it. I have no clue. Like, I would love to find that paper somewhere. I think I probably shredded it and threw it in the trash or something. But she wouldn't let me come into the classroom. She would like stand by the door and welcome everybody. And I came in and she stood in front of the door. And I was like, hey, like, and she's like, no. She's like, people have complained about that you smell like alcohol in class and you hardly ever show up. And so she wouldn't let me in the class. And she said something to me like, I really hope you get some help, or something like that. I don't remember being like, I can remember being kind of like, F her, or whatever, but like, I wasn't really pissed. I was kind of used to it at that point. But then I just went and I like withdrew. And I think I had like, that was my last class that I was in or whatever. But I would go down there, and I can remember this one girl that I was kind of friends with, and she said to me, she was like, what are you doing here? And I was like, what do you mean? And she was like, you're not even in any classes. But for me, like, I look at that moment, and it's like so sad in retrospect that I was really doing that for me. Like, putting up these, like, you know, I was really doing it for me. And I was like, I wasn't doing it for anybody else, because it wasn't like I was talking to her, you know, or anything on the phone or whatever. I mean, it wasn't like my dad was seeing me at school. I don't know. I just had no purpose. I literally had no purpose. And I had nothing to do to fill my time. And I knew if I just sat at home, I'd just be like wasted, you know? And so I remember she looked at me and she's like, well, you're not even in any classes. Like, what are you doing down here? And I just was like, oh my God, I'm figured out. Like, that was the last time that I went down to class. And I think that was probably around, I don't know if that was maybe before Thanksgiving. I think that was like, I have no idea, 30 years ago. I can't remember everything from 30 years ago. It's interesting because she and I reconnected a couple years ago. And she and I had some writing classes together and stuff. I didn't know her real well, but we had like partied some together. But anyway, I did not ask her about that when we reconnected. But yeah, it was bad, you know, and I just really lived day to day. You know, afterwards, like, some of my friends, like, I really thought all my friends partied just like I did. And later, talking to some of them, they were like, we were so worried about you, but we really didn't know what to do to get you help, you know? And it was bad. It was really, really bad. You know, but for the grace of God, I'm still sitting here today. Like, and so, like, I think it happened the way, for me, I think it happened the way that it had to happen, you know? I mean, I've had friends of mine that willingly went into treatment. I've had, like, my mom, you know, never went to treatment. She used to say to me, she'd say, I wish I went to treatment, because I would have loved the group therapy and whatever, and she would have, but, you know, she just started going to meetings. I know a lot of people that never went to treatment, that just went to meetings, you know, that didn't have to be forced into something, you know. Honestly, I also know a lot of people that have been court-ordered to meetings. I know a lot of people that are, you know, in work release and drug courts, and it works for some of them, it doesn't work for others. You know, I know people that have had interventions, have gone to treatment and stayed sober. Some of them do, some of them don't. You know, like my sponsor says, you're gonna get as much out of your sobriety as you put into it, and I'm a big believer in that. But I was talking about this at the beginning because I was saying that I really like these, you know, having these deep conversations. I did not expect to go into all of that, but like I said, I love talking about anything to do with sobriety and recovery. It's interesting because it's almost like, as I tell the stories, like I've told them so much through the years that they get, I mean, obviously they do get further and further away, but for a while, it was like those early days of sobriety were really like profound memories to me. But like the further, I mean, I'm 30 years sober, you know, if I make it to December 17th, I'll be 31 years sober. I'm closer to 31 years sober than 30 years sober at this point, right? And and I say if I make it there because we don't borrow time in sobriety, so, you know, you have today. I actually haven't looked at that app in a very, very long time that tells you how many days and hours, I don't even know where it is on here, how many days and hours you have. Where is it? It says like 12-step on it or something. Did you hear that music? Where is it at? Do I have it in my health one? No. I have no idea where this is. Lifestyle? Oh, it's in lifestyle. Who knew? Okay, I currently today have been sober for 30.77 years. The camera stopped. See, I cannot believe I'm at half an hour already. I talked so long about all that. Okay, I've currently been sober for, as of today, 30.77 years, 369.29 months, 11,242 days, and 269,796 hours. So, this is an app you can get on your phone. There's a lot of these kind of apps, but this is the one that I like. And even though I haven't looked at it in forever, because we've just for today, you know, daily reprieve. But what I was saying was that my mom and I had lots of deep conversations, you know, even before we got sober, but even more so after we got sober. And I think, like, I mean, my mom and I always had deep conversations. My dad and I did too. My stepmom and I, my dad and I would always have deep conversations. I don't know, like, I think that that's probably part of why, like, I remember growing up and, you know, like, my mom and her friends, like, sitting in our library with the fireplace burning. Oh, by the way, I called the fireplace place today that I was referred to and left a message, and they have not called back yet. I also called the vet, and they have not called back yet, but they said that they would call by 6 to see when they... the dogs are doing fantastic. Their incisions are almost completely healed. Like, almost completely healed. So... I called the vet today, talked to the vet assistant to see, like, if we have to keep the cones on through the weekend. So she's going to check with the vet, and then she's going to let me know. So anyway, they're doing really, really good. Alex is inside watching Love Island games, and they're sleeping on their little bed, or their big bed. And then Alex at 5 o'clock, well, he said he's probably going to leave here about 4:30. He and his friend... This is the couples that we travel with. So I guess no husbands are going or something like that. Her husband's working. So they're going over to our friend that owns the cabin, over to her new house. He was like, do you want to go? You're invited to go. He's like, we're going to do, like, they're going to do pizza or something. I don't know. I said, no. I want to just read and watch shows all night tonight. Tomorrow night, he mentioned to me last night, we've been wanting to see the Conjuring movie. And then he mentioned to me last night when he got home, he was like, the Strangers movie comes out this weekend. And I go, okay, do you want to see the Conjuring or the Strangers movie? And I was like... and he goes, I'd rather see the Strangers movie. So Alex is like the movie that scares him the most out of life. Well, zombie movies, because he doesn't like zombies at all. He's like scared of zombies. He'll say, I'm not scared of zombies. He's like, but like, no, it's kind of like, I think it could really happen. Even though he says, like, whenever I bring it up on, but he's like, I never said it. Yes, he said. So anyway, he's like, he doesn't like zombie anything. But The Strangers, like, he is terrified of that movie. So it's chapter 2, I guess, or something. So we might go see that. We might go see one tomorrow night and one on a Sunday. I don't know. We'll see. Or none at all. Because we've also got the Housewives to catch up on. And I really want to catch up on the Housewives because this week was the last week of Miami. Orange County's halfway through. And then Salt Lake City just started. And it's so good. So we've got 3 Housewives to watch. I can't imagine that they'll be... I mean, her kids go to bed at like 7:30 or 8, and then, or their friend, her husband's doing something with their kids tonight, so I can't imagine it'll still be like a late night, but anyway, but we probably won't watch Housewives when he gets home tonight. So anyway, yeah, like my parents always had, like, I can remember sitting around my mom and her friends having like these like deep intellectual conversations just about like, you know, I'm joking kind of when I say this about like the meaning of life, but those kind of conversations, you know, just like, I remember, like, watching The Way We Were with my mom. If you've ever seen... hold on a second. If you've ever seen the movie The Way We Were with Robert Redford, who just recently passed away, which was so sad. And in the movie, there's a scene when Robert Redford and his friend, it's after he and Barbara Streisand get divorced, and they're on this sailboat. And they're talking about, like, the ending of the relationship. The Way We Were is like it was probably one of my mom's favorite movies of life. I think for her, it just reminded her a lot of she and my dad's relationship to some degree. I mean, not like, don't pick that apart, just like, I don't know, like the passion and all that kind of stuff. And if you haven't heard me tell this before, at the very end of the movie, like years later, they run into each other in New York City, and, his name in the movie is Hubble, and her name is Katie. And so, she says something about, like, he's with his new, like, woman or new wife or whatever, and she's like, you should bring your, she seems like a nice girl, you should bring her over for dinner sometime. And he's like, yeah, probably not. And she's like, yeah, probably not. I can't remember how it's said, but kind of like, it's good to see you, but, like, time has gone by, and she's got his daughter and stuff like that, and so he asks about her, but obviously the daughter doesn't see him and stuff like that. And so when, hey, how are you?
Good, good.
Did you go golfing yesterday?
Yes.
How was it?
It was good.
You look like you went golfing today.
Nope. This is my grandfather.
This is your grandpa
Babysitting out.
babysitting today.
Yeah.
You got your hokas on.
Yep. When I'm walking, that's what I gotta wear.
Well, it's a beautiful day. I'm getting ready to take my walk here in a little bit.
It is nice.
I know.
Perfect temp.
Have a good one. They are such sweet grandparents to their little grandbaby. But at the very, so my mom, the eulogy, I wish I could find it. You guys, it's so weird. I typed the whole thing up. I didn't read it like verbatim. I just had like, you know, like talking points on it and whatever. But at the beginning of the eulogy, I talked about how my mom and I loved movies. And so I picked out like 5 or 10 movies, and I picked out like lines from the movie that we loved. Like My Dog Skip, because I was an only child, and at the end of the movie he says something like, I was an only child and he was my only dog, or something like that, and my mom loved that line. But I ended her eulogy, and at the very end of The Way We Were, Robert Redford runs across the street, like back to his like car that's waiting for him with his wife, and he says, see ya, Katie. And then she looks up and she waves at him and she says, see ya, Hubble. And then it starts the song, you know, memories, da 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 da. I love that movie so much. I can remember when I was a little kid, and I would like, it would come on TV, or my mom would rent it or whatever, and she would watch it in her bedroom. I must have been real little. I mean, think about, I didn't understand what the movie was about, obviously, but I can remember like laying, I mean, this is like how times were so different. Like, nobody ever smoked cigarettes in houses. My mom smoked in the house. Everybody that we knew smoked in houses. I can remember laying there, and my mom would be like, her bed was like up in this like corner thing, and she would like, well, it was like in the corner, and then her side was like, had this like, you know, table and stuff. She would either sit, like she had a chair and an ottoman on one side of her room and then the bed. And so I would lay on the end of the bed with a fan on me, and she would watch like a late movie. And I can remember her watching like The Way We Were, and me like turning over and looking at her like at the end of the movie, and she'd have like a glass of wine. This is kind of a sad memory, honestly, but it was kind of a comfy memory. But she'd have like a cigarette in her hand, and like, you know, with her ashtray, she had this big glass ashtray and like this glass of wine, and she'd just be like sobbing. And it's kind of a sad memory, isn't it? But I don't think of that as a sad memory. Isn't that weird? But anyway, so at the end of the eulogy, I said, see ya, Hubble. And then I said, see ya, Mom. And that's how I ended my mom's eulogy. But anyway, I wish I could find the eulogy. I cannot find it. I thought that it was in the pocket of the suit that I wore to my mom's funeral. And then for years, I was like, I didn't know what suit it was. And I would go through, like, I mean, I had so many suits. And so I would go through all these suits, and I couldn't find it. I swore it was, like, folded up in the pocket there. I'd seen it one time and just left it there. I think at one point I did find it, and I put it somewhere, and now I can't remember where I put it. And I've gone through, like, everything in this house, cleaning the basement and everything else. So I don't know where that eulogy is. Maybe I'm not meant to find it. I don't know. But I've always wanted to, like, get that eulogy and, like, read part of it on video, just so I always have that memory. Do you know what's interesting is, I talked about this on here before, but a couple years ago, I mean, it's been, like, a long time now. This was, like, when I first started on YouTube. Maybe even before that, but I think it was when I first started on YouTube. I was talking about, I hadn't heard my mom's voice, like, in all these years. You know, people have, like, voice notes saved and voicemails and stuff like that. I have none of that. Like, I have some tapes from when I was a kid, but I haven't listened to them. My dad actually gave me all of my, and I haven't looked at that either, which is really weird. Like, all the childhood, like, you know, movies that he filmed of me, like, learning how to ride a bike. And you know what I should do is I should turn those into a video. That would, me reacting to those, that would be fun. But my mom's on there, but Caroline gave me like a VCR copy of her wedding, and my mom at Caroline's wedding read Corinthians, And I said something to Caroline, this was years ago, and I said, I haven't heard my mom's voice in forever. And she's like, well, she reads at the wedding, do you want like a copy of it? So Caroline gave me this copy. I've had it all those years and I've never watched it. Every time I go to watch it, I'm always kind of like a little resistant to doing it. I don't know why. I have no idea. Like, I could probably watch it today and I'd be completely fine. I don't even know that I would really cry today. Isn't that weird? Or maybe I would, and maybe that's what I'm afraid of, is that I'll just completely lose it. And what's wrong with that if I do? Nothing, right? To feel an emotion. But my mom and I always had very deep conversations. My dad and I did too, my stepmom and I. And I think that my desire for that was when I was growing up. I can remember. Oh, so the scene on The Way We Were was they're on this boat, and it's one of my mom's favorite scenes from any movie. And it's Robert Redford and his friend, and they're kind of talking about like the end of him and Katie, and they start doing this thing where they go like best year, best day, and then they like have to answer like what was your best day, and he's like June 6, 1958 or something like that, and then he's like they talk about it. I remember my mom having those conversations. I remember with her friends. I remember being young and having conversations with my mom about, or overhearing them with her friends where they would talk about very serious topics. My mom was not somebody that, she did love like funny talk and whatever, but like she enjoyed sitting for hours and having like intellectual deep conversations about life. My mom enjoyed that. I enjoy that. And so I think I yearn for that. And I can remember that with my dad too. I don't know why I have this memory. I don't even know what year it would have been. But I remember when Steve McQueen died and my dad came over. They would have been separated at that point. Let me look it up and see. Because they both loved Steve McQueen. Death. Isn't that so weird? It's such a random memory. November 7th, 1980. So I was born in 72, so I would have been 8. I remember like my mom coming over and like one of her friends and her husband were there too. And my dad came over because that would have been after they were separated. And I can see them all like standing in our library. So the house that I grew up in, when you came in the front door, we had like a living room to the left. And then we had like a library to the right, which was like floor to ceiling bookshelves. It looked like a library. It had like a big fireplace, limestone fireplace. And then it had like the stereo system and speakers and stuff in there. It had like these French doors and you step down into it. And I can remember like there was like this fire going and my mom and my dad and maybe because I thought like they were like getting back together or something. I don't know, but I remember it like they were quoting lines from Steve McQueen in movies. It's just like this random memory that I have. Isn't that so bizarre? I don't even know, like, was he in Bullet? I don't even know what Steve McQueen, like, this is where I do wish my mom was here because I wish I would be like, what was your favorite Steve McQueen movie? I don't remember her entire life ever really talking about Steve McQueen. Let me look through these movies and see. Oh, she loved The Great Escape. Bullet. Oh, The Thomas Crown Affair. She loved The Thomas Crown Affair. My dad loved, oh, The Towering Inferno. Oh my God, I do love that movie. Oh, he was in a lot of movies that my mom loved. I get it now. I guess. I don't know. Anyway. Yeah, I think, like, because I can remember, like, my friends in high school and I, one of my friends, we used to skip school. God, we wanted to be adults so bad. We'd skip school. See, this is, like, I think, like, maybe this is why my mom always felt so bad, and she'd always be like, I feel like I was a bad role model. I mean, I was going to be an alcoholic one way or the other, I think I just was so genetically predetermined to be an alcoholic, but I can remember with my one friend, the friends that I talked about that I had twins, it was one friend that I was really, really close with, my junior and senior year. And my senior year, my mom worked at the time at, was it Ayers or Macy's then? I don't remember, but she worked in domestics. She hated it. It was like, I think that's what it was called at the time. Towels and sheets and stuff like that. She always called it domestics. I don't know why. But anyway, because that year for Christmas, we all got like towels and sheets and stuff like that. But she worked real late. And so my friend and I, we would like sometimes skip our last class or we would come back to my mom's house. And I can remember we would like sit in the library and we would play my mom's Simon and Garfunkel CDs, albums, Dangling Conversation. And we would like drink a gin and tonic. I hate gin and tonics. We would like, I don't drink today, but I hated them back then, even when I did drink. I hated gin and tonics, but we would drink them and we would smoke cigarettes. And I can remember like cleaning everything out, like, you know, after my friend would leave and like putting everything away, like so that my mom, she never knew. She never, you know. I used to steal cigarettes from my mom. She smoked. God. Hey, how are you?
How are you?
Good. You guys are all making me want to get out and walk right now.
Well, okay.
I'll see you here in my walk in a little bit.
Okay.
She's the one I always pass when I'm walking every night. My mom smoked Vantage. I stole so many cigarettes from my mom through the years. She smoked Vantages. I remember my mom in high school, because in high school I switched. That's why I smoked Camel Lights for a long time. I remember she like found like a pack of mine with one cigarette in it, and I said something about like I'm holding them for a friend. And she was like, you're not holding these for a friend. My dad, I think I got caught by him too. My dad didn't really care so much, which is weird, because my dad hates smoking, but my mom was like, you're not holding them for a friend and whatever. And I was so bad when to look at her and go, if you had any idea how many cigarettes I've stolen from you through the years, you know. My Aunt Kathy and Uncle Dave too. I was just telling Caroline this. I said something about stealing cigarettes from your mom and dad. And she said, oh, when they smoked, because they smoked something. And I go, no, they smoked Carlton Lowest Tar 100s. They were in a red pack. And she was like, no, they didn't. And I said, Caroline, I know for a fact. I used to, every time they would have their packs out on Christmas, I'd take like 4 or 5 of them. She's like, did you really? She's like, I probably got blamed for that. That conversation was like a month or 2 ago. But anyway, I was like, Caroline, you were like 3 years older than me when that happened. No, I wasn't like 10 smoking. So, well, I don't know. Maybe I was. We did in the neighborhood. We were bad kids in the neighborhood. But anyway, my mom smoked Kents for a while. When I started stealing them from her, Kents. Vantage Ultralights with the holes in them. Do you guys remember those? Okay, and then my mom's friend smoked Benson Hedges Ultralight 100s in the gold pack. I was obsessed with that gold pack. When I started smoking, I would smoke those a lot just because I liked the pack. They were like this, I don't even know if they make those anymore, but I like that pack. Anyway, so, yeah, like I always wanted to have these like real deep conversations, you know? Like, I think I witnessed it a lot. Like, I witnessed it with my mom and my aunt, and I witnessed it with my mom and her friends, and I witnessed it with my dad and his friends, and, you know, my dad would sit, and he would put on, my dad used to listen to this, Willie Nelson and Julio Iglesias CDs, and sit on the back porch, and we would just sit out there and talk, and, I don't know, I just feel like so funny, Julio Iglesias, I think it was Willie Nelson and Julio Iglesias together, but that my dad had this double CD or something of, but anyway, I think I always yearned for that. And so I can remember my friend and I in high school, like we would like sit there and listen to these Simon and Garfunkel albums, and we'd have these like deep conversations about just life, you know? And I think that was my way of like emulating wanting to kind of be an adult. And so I always yearned for that. My mom and I always had those kind of conversations, like not like purposefully. I just remember us talking about very like serious conversations. I can remember like the most random conversations. I can remember being like, but most of it, this is how the whole conversation started, okay? But, so we always did have those conversations, but they changed once we both were sober, because I think we were both more present-minded. Like, I was never drinking when we had the conversations before, but my mom probably was. And so they changed, and they also changed through the lens of both of us being sober and having recovery as a common language. And so we were speaking differently, if that makes sense, about sobriety. Like, we were looking at life through a different lens. When you're sober, however you deem that to be, but like from a 12-step point of view, it's like you look at things in a different kind of manner. I'm sure, like, however, like if you're in therapy, you probably look at it a different manner. If you go to church, you know, you look at things through like the lens of what guides you. And so we had that common lens. And so I think that we started looking at things differently, and we started having, our conversations changed over time. And I think they were maybe more vulnerable, raw conversations. I remember, like, this is so interesting because my mom got sober at 51 and I'm 53 now. And so this would have been like the year or two after she got sober. My mom, I can remember, like, one of the things that my mom felt very strongly about was that for herself, and she didn't pass judgment on anybody else, but she would say that she wanted to date again, but she knew that men would want to have sex before they got married. And my mom's like, I don't believe in that for me. Like, I don't believe in, you know, I'm going to marry a man before I have sex. And she's like, but the reality is that there aren't a lot of men out there that are going to want to wait at my age. Like, if you're going to date somebody that's like 50 to 70, they're not going to want to wait. Like, and they're dating younger women, you know? And like, I can remember my mom and I having this conversation. We had multiple conversations about the whole dating thing. Because my mom really struggled with the dating thing. Because she was like, and she was asked out some, but I wouldn't say a lot. And, you know, she would say, I think a couple guys that she kind of was interested in, she would meet them in meetings and things like that. Although she would say to me, there's not like a lot of options. She'd say, you know, she would say to me, there's not a lot of, like, either the men are all married, okay, or there's like 10 single women and one single guy. And so, but she would say, like, I didn't even really know this was a thing, honestly, until my mom told me about it. And then I actually had a friend that was very similar to this. And then since my friend that I found out about this, I feel like I've had this with a lot of my female friends. My mom would say, I don't ever want to, like, be in a relationship again where somebody, like, says, okay, it's time for bed, or, like, shut the TV off and let's go to bed. I don't know that my dad did that, but I think that my mom witnessed that. I mean, I remember my mom, like, vaguely staying downstairs when my dad would go upstairs to bed. My dad's not like that now. Like, my stepmom stays up much later than my dad, because we'll sometimes text late at night and stuff like that. She stays up, so I don't think that was my dad, but I think my mom had witnessed a lot of women like that. And I know my Uncle Dave wasn't like that, because my aunt fell asleep before my Uncle Dave. My aunt always went to sleep, like, really, really early and got up at, like, 2 o'clock in the morning and did, like, so I don't know, she would do, like, wrap presents starting in, like, October for Christmas. She had a wrapping station in her basement and stuff like that. I'd say, Aunt Kathy, what time should she go? Oh, I got up at 2 o'clock in the morning and made coffee and came down here to my wrapping station. But I don't know where my mom witnessed that, but she's like, you know, I don't want to ever be in a relationship where a man's telling me, like, we need to turn the TV off and go to bed. And I was like, that's so bizarre. Like, and she's like, I just, you know, like, I want a companion to go to movies with and travel with, and I would love to have a companion to, like, go out to eat with and whatever. She's like, but I don't want a companion all the time. She's like, I don't know that I would ever want to live with somebody again. She'd say, I like to have them have their place and me have my place. She'd say, but I don't know that I ever want to have a companion, like a live-in companion again. I don't know that I want to be married. But then if I'm not going to marry a man, like, a man's going to want to have sex, and I don't believe in having sex before I get married. Like, my mom felt very firmly about that. She didn't care what other people did, but she felt very firmly about that. And so she was like, so my options are limited, you know? And she did say at one point, though, she said, like, because my mom had a lot of single, you know, friends, female friends, girlfriends, and she'd say, like, her one friend, she said, I mean, I would love for her to move in here and we could have, like, 2 single beds in the bedroom. And she said, but then everybody would probably think that we were lesbians. Not that I care that anybody thinks that I'm a lesbian, but I'm not a lesbian. But I don't care that anybody, but she would say that, which I think she kind of cared a little bit, you know what I mean? But anyway, but she was like, no, but it would be fun, because we get up and have our coffee together, we watch our shows together at night, and just be a companion. You know, I think my mom wanted that platonic companionship. I don't think she really, but then we had this conversation, and she said to me, she goes, you know, like, you don't really change as you get older. Like, I remember she said, and this was in her 50s, she said, you know, just because I'm older, I still have the same erotic feelings I had when I was 20. She said, I just don't have, you know, like, and I'm not taking this conversation this place with my mom, but I, you know, never got into the conversations with my mom about things that you can do. You know what I'm saying? Okay. But, I mean, we didn't have that honest of we didn't talk explicitly about sexual things. But anyway, you know, we would have conversations about erotic feelings or lust and things like that in the vagaries, but we wouldn't be specific about it. But I can remember what she said to me. She's like, you know, you get older and people think you've kind of aged out of that. She's like, but you still have that lust and those erotic feelings inside. You still get butterflies in your stomach when you see somebody that you're attracted to. She goes, that doesn't go away. She's like, but then all of a sudden she's like, you know, you're older and there's not really like an outlet for it and whatever. I don't know. It kind of makes me sad. I think a few guys came along and my mom just was like, I'm a thinker. She was too much of a thinker. She would be like, well, I could go, she would think it through before she went on the first day. You know, she'd be like, well, I could go out to coffee with him. But then, like, what if he wants to, like, stay over, and then I have to have the conversation with him, and then if he wants to get married, and then he's going to have to meet Peter, I'm going to have to meet his kids, and then I don't know if I want to get married, because I really just kind of like to, eat my gallon of ice cream from Kroger for 99 cents and watch the late night show. I don't want somebody going, you know, and then it's just, maybe I'll just stay single. I think my mom thought through things like that, you know? But after we both got sober, we had, I mean, I can just remember coming over here and sitting for like hours drinking coffee and just having like outside in the back patio, inside in the living room next to the fireplace. My mom always, like, whenever I came over here in the fall and the winter, she always had a fire lit. And we would walk through the neighborhood, and I think about that sometimes when I'm walking, some of the places my mom and I walked. And we would talk about all kinds of things. We would talk about God moments and life and memories that we had and people in our lives and people that were gone from our lives and what we learned from them. My mom was a great, like, as far as having a conversation with, my mom was somebody that, my mom could be very difficult at times. I don't love, in all honesty, and I've said this a lot in my videos through the years, the battery just went to the halfway mark. I have, like, 10, 20, 30 years ago, you know, when somebody passes away and there's just certain things about them, then people want to saint them overnight. I don't love that just because somebody passes away. I don't think we have to speak ill of somebody that's passed away, but I also don't think that we have to saint them. And so I try to be very honest about my mom's memory. My mom could be very difficult. Like, my mom could be a difficult person to be with. And she had a lot of issues, and she was fully aware of that. And my mom was fully aware that she could be a difficult person, too. You know, I think she apologized a lot for being difficult. But my mom had a lot of wisdom, too. And so, like, I remember, I've shared this story before. This is just one of the top of my memories. But when because it was right here, I think is why I remember it. My ex decided, I can't remember what it was for. Maybe my mom's birthday or something, like the last year that we were together. And we were supposed to all go somewhere together. And so I came over here, and then she came out, and she was like, is he not coming? And I said no, and she's like, what's going on? I remember we were sitting in the car, and I, like, was looking at, like, the walkway. She had these shrubs out there then. And I said, Mom, I just don't know really what's going on. It's just, like, things aren't great. And I'll never forget, she just kind of looked over here, and she said, you know, weeds grow fast in a garden. And once you just start focusing on the weeds, you don't see the flowers anymore. You don't see the good things about the relationship. And she said, make sure that you're focusing on the flowers too. I remember my mom saying that. That's really been one thing that's really got me through a lot of tough times in life, is that when I focus so much on the negative, like, I have to make sure that I'm looking at the positive too. And it wasn't just like those little, like, quick little things that she would say like that to me, those, you know, quips or whatever. It was like, she would have conversations and talk it through. I remember I had this friend of mine that she had gone out with me. I've talked about this before. She would have birthday parties where drag queens gave her, you know, birthday cakes. And then we had a friend of ours that took his life that she was very, very close with. And after that, she got very involved in church. She started going to church because she wanted to, like, meet a guy, which I understand that. And, but she just completely turned her back on the gay community, and she thought that him being gay was why he took his life, which had really nothing to do with it. And there was a lot of mental health stuff there. And I can remember, like, talking to her on the phone, and this is when I was with my first boyfriend. And so I probably was about 3 or 4 years sober at the time. And I said to my mom, maybe I was over here. I came over here. Well, I talked to my friend on the phone. And I remember I was house sitting for my dad. And, because I got so upset. And I think I came over to my mom's house after that. And she said to me something about the degrees of sin. And I remember, I said, what do you mean? And she's like, well, there's different, like, you know, degrees of sin. And I'm like, okay. And I was like, well, where is being gay on there? It started off with her and, like, another friend of ours going to, like, a singles night. And then it turned into them, like, being on choir. And then, like, they were going, like, 5 days a week to this very fundamental church, which she's not part of today. But I remember I said to her, okay, like, I was just completely shocked by the conversation. This was a friend of mine that was very open-minded. And I said, what degree is being gay? I literally remember this like she said it yesterday. And she said, it's worse than R, but not as bad as murder. And I was like, excuse me? I just was done. I was like, and it did not end well. And she said, but I mean, I love you. Like, I would have you in my home anytime. I thought, you say that to somebody, but you love that? What? And I said, I'm not sure I would feel comfortable having you in my home. She goes, what do you mean? And I go, I'm not comfortable. I don't know that I would feel comfortable having you in my home after that you feel that way. That was my initial response, you know? And my mom was somebody that was very well versed in religion and spiritual beliefs and things like that, and understanding that. I mean, even though she was a woman of very strong faith, and later in life, women of very strong faith. But one of her favorite books was this book called, I think I misquote what it's called, but it's called like Living Buddha, Living Christ. And it was really about like how Buddha and Christ were both like, the camera stopped. I'm at an hour. I haven't even told you guys what I did last night. Well, you guys will either love this one or you'll be like, no, back to the books and the movies and TV shows. Okay, I'm probably going to get another battery here in a second because it's probably going to die on me. But my mom loved this book. I should look it up and see what it's called because I'm sure somebody out there is probably interested in it. I read it years and years ago. I don't think I ever finished the whole thing. But my mom gave me a copy of it. Living Buddha, Living Christ. Oh, here it is. It's red and black if I remember it correctly. Oh, maybe not. Oh, it's by that guy, that Buddhist monk that I like. I did not know that. Thich Nhat Hanh. Buddha and Christ, perhaps the two most pivotal figures in the history of humankind, each left behind a legacy of teachings and practices that have shaped the lives of billions of people over 2 millennia. If they were to meet on the road today, what would each think of the other spiritual views and practices? So the book, and my mom read a lot of this kind of stuff, and the book is really about like how Buddha and Christ, coming from two very, very vastly different like religious ideologies, really believed in the concepts of compassion, love, kindness, and forgiveness. And if I remember it correctly. And my mom, she truly believed in that. So I can remember coming over to my mom because I thought, like, those would be the moments that I would talk to my mom because I thought she'll see things in a way that I didn't see it. Even though, like, when my ex and I broke up, so my ex was very good with cars, and he, like, one year for Christmas we bought her a car battery and, like, put a new car battery in he knew how to do that stuff like that. And I remember when we broke up, my mom said something about, my dad for years would be like, your mom is such like women's like equal rights until it comes to like, you know, like changing a tire. And then he'd be like, your mom is like, I can't change a tire. Can you call your dad or your Uncle Dave or something like that? He's like, you know, she doesn't think that. Like, my mom kind of did believe in that a little bit. She was kind of like, no, it's not really my job to change a tire. She did kind of feel that way a little bit. But I think towards the end of her life that changed. But like with the whole like she would just see things from a different perspective. And she wouldn't necessarily always tell me, like, what I wanted to hear. Like, I remember talking to her one time about prayer, and I said something about, like, I was praying for this relationship with my ex, actually, to work. And we, like, worked together, and then we broke up after, like, 4 or 5 months, and then we got back together. And I can remember I was talking to my mom about it one time, and she said, I said something about, I, like, have been praying on it. And she goes, praying for what? And I said, the relationship to work. And she was kind of like, I think she kind of laughed a little bit. She's like, oh, sweetie, that's not what we pray for. And I was like, what do you mean I can pray for whatever I want? Because you can pray for whatever you want. Yeah, absolutely. She said, but prayer is really about like, to help us like we pray for understanding, or we pray for compassion to get through a situation, or patience, or whatever. And that really shifted. I don't know if she was right or wrong. I mean, you can pray for everything, right? But like, that really changed my perspective and how I pray today. And what prayer means, that I don't necessarily always pray for God to take something away or for God to fix something. I don't necessarily know that, like, my mom said something to me and that she's like, you know, God is not like a wish granter kind of thing. But I do believe that there have been times that God has gotten me through things that I didn't know how I was going to get through on my own. I really do believe that. But I can remember coming over to my mom's house after I had that conversation with my friend, and I was distraught. I was devastated. I mean, this has been a very good friend of mine for a very long time. And I remember, like, my mom just sitting there, and we were talking about it. And I was explaining the situation to her, and she said, you know, some people hide behind religion out of fear. And I said, well, what do you mean? And she said, you know, this, like, a lot of religious beliefs is like tells you what to believe, and my mom believed very much that God was of free will, and free will is of how you think too, you know. And she said a lot of people are afraid in life, and that fear, you know, like when we talk about in sobriety, that 100 forms of fear, that addiction comes from, you know, our using comes from 100 forms of fear. She said so many people are led by fear. Religion gives people a way to not be afraid. If you do this, this, and this, and you don't, it takes the fear away. She said she's coming from a place of fear, Peter. she's not coming from a place of hatred. She's not coming from a place of anger. I think it's really helped me in life. I don't spend a lot of time entertaining or having conversations with, because I think at 53 it's not my job to change the conversation unless somebody wants to have it with me. If they're open-minded to it, it's not my job to convince somebody otherwise of what, they believe or whatever. It's just not. I'm not saying that I wouldn't have that conversation. I still believe that I can educate people from my experience, but I don't entertain hate mongers today. I just don't. But it has helped me through the years to see that maybe hate and anger, although I don't think they accomplish a lot, that conversation with my mom, maybe that conversation existed, and that friend of mine later worked things out. I think that maybe that all happened. Well, maybe it didn't happen. I'm not a believer that things happen for a reason, but maybe the takeaway from it was to teach me to look past sometimes the anger and the hate to see what's really, I'm a believer that anger is a secondary emotion. So what's really behind it, and maybe what's really behind it is fear. And I think that fear is something that as human beings, we all relate to. And so for me, I think that whole conversation that I had with my mom, I remember sitting here with her that night, and she went on this whole thing about, fear has been this thing that people have tried to run from for years and years and years, and religion gives people something to believe in that takes fear away from them. It's not necessarily a bad thing, but then what they do with that can be bad, And so, I don't know. That was a hard experience for me in my life. But yeah, I started this whole thing off to say that, like, my mom and I used to, have these real deep conversations. I loved it. Not always. A lot of times she'd just tell me funny stories about stuff that happened, like when I was a kid and they were in Chicago and we just laugh, or sometimes we watch some movies. The Oscars were always a really big time, but I've always loved to have these deep conversations I call these deep conversations. I don't know, maybe y'all just call them conversations, but I love having deep conversations about stuff. Today, I honestly, before I got on here, I was like, what could I talk about, But I want it to be natural. So, I don't want to go in with a purpose, like I was saying at the beginning. And it's so funny how this all came out of me talking about how I used to come here and have these deep conversations with my mom. So, I guess it did just, flow kind of naturally. I'm actually going to go inside and get another battery and check on Alex and the dogs really quick. And then I'm going to come back and I will, I'll tell you guys what I did last night and today, and then I will kind of finish this vlog up. Unless it goes into another deep conversation, then we'll be, what time is it? Oh, Alex will be leaving here in a little bit. So I'm going to go get a replacement battery, and I will be back in 2 and 2. Okay, I'm back. I went inside, and as soon as I opened the door, the dogs got up off their bed, and they came running for me. I really miss that. Towards the end with Boo, he just wouldn't do that anymore. And I really miss that. And so, every time usually that we come in the door, when Alex comes home from work, they run, they can hear, it's weird, they can hear him before he even opens the garage door. And then they're waiting with their tails wagging, and he comes in the door, and he's like, hey, little guys, and he picks them up and stuff like that. People have asked about this, how Alex is, doing with the dogs and stuff like that. He's doing great. He's really, really good with them. They're still my dogs, but he is very loving towards them. And, they'll, snuggle up next to him, and they sleep with him, and he picks them up and walks around with them. He helps a lot with the dogs. They're my dogs, but they're our dogs. He says I said, we were having this conversation the other day, and I said, you have gotten so close to these dogs. And I said something to Walter. I was because Walter was wagging his tail and going, we were upstairs, and Alex goes, I'm their landlord and it's time for them to pay rent. And he started laughing at him. But he's been really good with them. I think Alex is just, we've had so many conversations about it. I think the emotional attachment to the dogs, Otis and Walter from the past, I think it's so scary for him a little bit. But he's done really, really well. I just don't force the issue. I'm just kind of when he wants to however he wants that relationship to grow, and but he takes him out if I need him to take him out or whatever. But when I'm with Tanya or whatever, or I'm gone, he takes him outside and feeds them or whatever I need him to do. But I'm definitely the one that's in charge of all the training and things like that. So anyway, Alex, by the way, he's still inside watching Love Island games, and he's laying there. So today when he got up, my husband hardly ever wears like a baseball hat. I think he looks cute in them, but he hardly ever wears them. And so he put on like this like baggy t-shirt and like these cute shorts, and he put on like these gray plastic Birkenstock sandals. He's like very casual today because he went to go get this IV thing and then see his friend's house that she's moved into. And then he came back because she had to pick up her daughter from school. So he's been laying there, like, watching TV and stuff. And so when I went inside and I said, "You're getting ready to leave here, aren't you, like, in half an hour?" I said 4:30, and he goes, 4:30-ish. And I said, okay, because that means when he gets done with this episode, he's going to leave. So if it's like an hour, he's going to wait. And I said, well, don't you need to get ready? And he goes, "I am ready." I go, "Oh, is it casual?" He goes, "Yeah, we're just, like, it's real casual tonight." I said, "Oh, okay. This is not going to be a long night at all." And she lives kind of far away from here, too. I was kind of like, that was the other thing, because she's like, I think like 40 minutes from here, and he was like, you can go if you want to go. I mean, I love her, and I love the other friend that's going too, but I was like, 40 minutes both ways? No, I'm good. I'm going to sit here, I'm going to take my walk. As soon as I get done, I'm going to take my walk. Well, I'll feed them, and then I'll take my walk and stuff. They usually sleep after every one of their meals. They get real tired. So yeah, today I've just been reading and stuff like that. It's been really, really nice. So last night I finished the Pumpkin Spice Cafe book. Oh my God, I loved it so much. 5 stars. It is so good. I will tell you at the end, and I don't know if she does it with all the books, but it does get very sexy time at the end. I'll be honest with you, like, I've had 2 of my friends that say that the sexy time stuff kind of turned them off a little bit. I feel like I have read much more sexy time books. And I'm not just talking about like 50 Shades of Grey. I'm talking about like the Jackie Collins books. Like, I mean, I've read a lot of the Jackie Collins books, like Lucky, Chances. I mean, these books came out like 20, 30 years ago. You know, Lucky, Chances, Rockstar. I read all those Jackie Collins books back in the day. I mean, she is pretty explicit in her books. There's like a scene they have sex like, this one time they have sex like 6 times in a row. I'm like, this is so fake. Like, this is not... Maybe, I don't know, when you're like, 21. But she's like hungry through the whole thing. I don't know, like hungry for food. Hold on a second, it didn't bother me at all. It's not super explicit. I mean, it's kind of stuff like, my hand grazed his, it's not really... Does it get explicit? Yes, it does get explicit. I would say like in 3 paragraphs, it gets pretty explicit. But other than that, like... I'm not somebody that loves reading that either. The first time that I started reading it, it literally goes though from like her running the Pumpkin Spice Cafe and people ordering lattes and chamomile tea and stuff to then like it being real sexy time. And that to me I was kind of like, oh my God, what's going on here? But like, then it just like, once the shock was over, I'm kind of like, I like it. It's good. I don't think that this book changed me to be a romance reader. I think it has a lot to do with the fact that these books took place in Dream Harbor, and I really like it because I started reading the Cinnamon Bun Bakery. Or bookstore, and I really like it, because I like the characters that she developed, and I like the town, and I didn't, like, it's interesting to me, like, what was the question I was going to ask? It was interesting to, listen, I'm a gold star, I've never had sex with women, trust me, I fully understand the concept, okay, but, like, there was something in the book, and I was like... I think maybe I'll save that for my review, the question I was going to have. I don't know, it's just like this weird part of the book, and I was like, is that like a conversation that men and women would have, but like men and men wouldn't have, or women and women wouldn't have? I don't know, it's just, I don't know, it was kind of like, I don't know, I think like she is very, very careful in the book about... Is this like a romance thing? Like, I don't read romances, so I don't know. Is like consent a really important thing in romance books? Because like I felt like there was a lot of that in this book. Like, he asked her a lot, like, are you okay with this? Are you sure you want this? Blah, blah. Like, while they're, like, in the middle of, like, kissing and stuff like that. And I was like, is consent, like... trust me, I am a big believer in consent. But I'm, like, in romance novels, like, of today's time, like, it felt like it was really prevalent in this book. So I was like, is that, like... I don't know if that's a thing in, like, romance books or not. So I didn't know about that. But anyway, I liked it. I loved it. I loved it so much more than I ever thought I would. I could not wait to start the next one, you guys. Like, I literally, like, finished it. I entered it in Goodreads, and I started the Cinnamon Bun Bakery, or Cinnamon Bun Bookstore with Hazel and Noah. I was like, oh my God, I cannot wait to read the next one. So I'm, like, loving them. But yeah, so I finished that last night. And then, what did I do last night? Oh, I kept on looking to see if Big Brother was on, and Big Brother didn't come up. What did I watch? I watched some reality TV. Oh, I don't know if I talked about this yesterday. Was it yesterday I finished it, or maybe it was the day before, but I'm completely caught up on Life After Lockup. That was the video I was going to do today. So I may do that tomorrow unless I watch Welcome to Plathville tonight. If I watch Welcome to Plathville and take notes tonight, because I got to get caught up on Welcome to Plathville. I think it's like they've got like one episode left or something. If I get caught up, I've got to get caught up on that. And you know what Sunday is? Sunday is the beginning of Sister Wives and also the Big Brother finale. I've got big TV night on Sunday. So tonight and tomorrow, what I really want to do is I am on episode 5 of the Billionaire's Bunker, and out of 8, and I'm on episode 5 of Wayward. That's what I did last night. I watched like 3.5 episodes of Wayward. Oh my God. A lot of people online are saying it's really, really boring and slow. It is. It's a different show than I thought it would be. It's definitely more... It reminds me of The Institute a lot, quite frankly. It's probably why I like it, because I just finished The Institute. I don't know what I expected by it. It's very culty. It's very hippie culty. Witchcrafty, hippie, culty kind of thing, in a way that I didn't expect it to be. So it's about this school called Tall Pines, that's in a city called Tall Pines. And it's also very like, what did somebody say? I saw online they said it was like the queer-friendly version of something. Like, I don't know. It has a lot of, like, LGBTQIA plus representation. Almost to a point that it's like, is there a purpose why they're doing it? It's a lot. I don't mind it, but when I'm watching that as a gay person that doesn't see a lot of representation in a lot of shows, then when it's like an overabundance of it, you're like, is there a reason for this? Like, is there a point behind it? Are they making a point of it? I don't know, like... If you're part of a marginalized community, maybe you'll understand what I'm saying a little bit. Like when you don't see representation places, and then it's like, you know, you see it. It's like you're happy that you see it, but at the same time, you're like, is there a reason why they're doing this? Is there like a purpose? Like, are they trying to give like, you know, I don't know. I like it. I feel like I'm watching it to find out what happens at the end. I wouldn't say it's like spooky, scary, like, but it is definitely a show to watch at night. And The Bunker's Billionaire, I've kind of like paused until so I'm going to finish Wayward, and then I'm going to finish The Bunker's Billionaire. Oh my God, tonight, Life After Lockup. I'm so back into Life After Lockup, too. So, Life After Lockup, I think I either finished that the night before or last night, whatever. And then last night, I just watched Wayward. I feel like I watched one other thing. Hold on, let me get to my weekly TV, because I had to readjust my weekly TV list last night. So right now the books that let me look at my weekly TV list. Okay, I had it pulled up actually. Miami, Real Housewives of Miami, Orange County, and Salt Lake City. Alex and I are watching. Oh, Survivor! Survivor I watched last night. Oh my God. And I didn't realize that the first episode of Amazing Race was on, so I added that to my list too. So Survivor started on Wednesday. I really like Survivor already this season. So I finished it, and I was like in the kitchen, and I was getting a cup of coffee, and I was like, I forgot how much I love Survivor and Amazing Race, because it's like no, like, I mean, it is drama, like they argue and whatever, but it's like no drama TV. Like, I like that break every once in a while, you know? So I started Survivor this week. Amazing Race started Thursday, so I haven't watched that, so I'll probably watch that tonight. I'll probably, like, when I get back from my walk, like, eat something, and then I'll watch Amazing Race while I'm eating something. It's all Big Brother, people. And then I have not watched Big Brother yet. Okay, Life After Lockup comes out tonight. Only Murders in the Building I still haven't started yet. I was kind of waiting until a couple episodes were out. Well, it started with 3 episodes, and I think there's probably 5 now total. Welcome to Plathville. I've got, like, 7 episodes to catch up on. Hightown is on pause, Ozark's on pause, Outer Banks on pause, The Strain is on pause, The Valley, I'm more than halfway through. I'm on episode 8 out of 15 still. Wayward, let me change this, hold on. I said 2. So last night I watched 2, 3, 4.5. I watched 3.5 episodes last night, because right now I'm halfway through episode 5. So 5 out of 8. Billionaire's Bunker. 5 out of 8. So I'll finish those this weekend. There's a bunch of new shows coming out. So that's what I'm watching. Then what I'm reading is James Patterson, Target Alex Cross. Just started that. And I'm reading The Cinnamon Bun Bookstore by Lori Gilmore. Do Not Disturb by Frida McFadden. The one about the dog stuff, I kind of put to the side. I'm going to, like the guy with his dog, I think I'm going to wait on that one. I'm reading, what's the other one I'm reading? Ice Alien Barbarians. I'm trying so hard to get through that. Oh, Zombie Fallout by Mark Tufo. I've got to finish that first one. I may listen to the other ones on Audible because I really, really enjoy it. But I only pull out my Kindle every once in a while and read it. What's the other book? There's 3 paperbacks. Oh, the James Patterson, Confessions of the Dead. I really, really like that book. That would be kind of a spooky read for Halloween if you're looking for a spooky read for Halloween. So yeah, that's what I'm reading. And been doing laundry and cleaning. Been doing towels, which is really exciting. And cleaning and stuff like that. And still haven't heard from the vet or the fireplace place. Are you guys so impressed that I called the fireplace thing? I said by Friday I was going to call. Maybe they're out for the rest of the day or something. Because now it's, yeah, it's almost 4:30. So maybe they're out for the rest of the day. Well, then I'll find out on Monday, and I'll get the schedule. Now, see, now I waited until almost October, and what they're going to say is we can come out there December 15th or something like that. Well, December 17th is my sobriety birthday, so it'll be a little sobriety birthday to me if they come out here, you know, December 15th. I can have a fireplace for my sobriety birthday. You know, it's interesting. I was thinking about this the other day. Like, every time I came over here, my mom in the winter and in the fall she'd always put, like, a Duraflame log on there and, like, one log. She always had, like, a fire going. So I do miss having a fire in the fireplace. It's just kind of like, I know that, like, the other day I was, like, looking through comments, and there were so many comments about me talking about the fireplace and joking about it. There were so many comments about it. I know to other people it just absolutely seems ridiculous, but in all honesty, like, in my list of 30 things that I have to get done, like, the fireplace is just kind of like, and it always has been, kind of like one of the last things on the list. It's kind of like, you know what I mean? It's kind of like, I'm trying to think of, like, a comparison to it. It's like clean out the junk drawer. It's kind of like one of those. Like, we haven't used it for so long that it's not really on my radar. And I know that if we get it fixed, we would really enjoy it. But that's why I called. So I called and, oh my God! He's pointing to you. You're here today.
I'm always here.
No. The last couple days. Look at you. The last couple days I haven't seen you. I missed you. It's so good to see you. You look so cute tonight. He's just walking on without you. How have you been?
Fine, how about you?
I'm good. It's beautiful, isn't it?
How are the puppies?
They're doing really good.
Do I get to see them one of these days?
Yeah, absolutely. They're inside sleeping right now with Alex.
Don't you wish you were a puppy?
I was just thinking that last night. They're like both like so like asleep, and I was like, I would love to be a dog.
They take care of you, they feed you, they brush you, you know.
I know.
You know, what a life.
Can you believe this weather? It is so beautiful. I mean, it's like a perfect fall day.
I love it.
Just think, in a month it'll be snow. It's supposed to be 85 for like the next 2 weeks.
I know, this is weird. This is just weird.
We had to close that pool so quick.
Well, it was more than just that. It was on a contract, and we extended. It would cost money that's needed for other things throughout the community.
Okay, but then why haven't they come and tarped it up yet?
That I don't know.
Because if you're on a contract, you'd think they'd come out here right away and close that up. And take the ladder out and everything.
I have no idea.
What are the other things that we need fixing the money for?
There's a lot of gutter things around some of the lakes,
Oh.
and there's a big one of the things on that.
She thinks she's going to convince me. You are not going to convince me. I want the pool open. The pickleball court's still open.
Yep.
I don't think anybody, I haven't heard anybody down there at all.
Well, you know, Debbie,
Oh, yeah, because she fell.
she fell, drove her nuts, and down, I think.
There's like 2 or 3 people that I see go down there. Every couple.
Debbie,
Yeah.
here, Joni goes down. I don't, because I don't want to break anything. I'm subject to breakage.
Have you made your vegetarian chili yet this fall?
No, I made it for him with I haven't made my vegetarian.
I've been craving chili like crazy.
I love anything. Trader Joe's and I are such good friends.
Do they have a vegetarian chili there?
I don't know. I make my own.
Oh, do you? I love Trader Joe's. It's my favorite place in the whole world.
Mine too.
It's really cheap, too.
Well, and they're very friendly. They're very, they always have the lanes open.
Mm-hmm.
Quick, they're efficient. They can't ask for anything more.
I know, I love it. I always find things in there that are not healthy for me, though, that look so good.
Did you know the little ice cream cones?
Oh my God. Have you ever had the cheesecake ones?
Not yet.
Oh, they're so good. But I almost bought some of those little ice cream cones this week. They have the mint chocolate chip ones. I was going to get those.
Really, really
Which ones?
chocolate.
Okay.
Chocolate, and then they have the sprinkles. They have something for Easter, I think, too. I can't remember what that is.
They have the best snacks in there. I love it. I always go to that news section in the back and look. And
Oh, somebody's stopping.
somebody's coming.
One's got dogs in the middle of the street.
Oh, Lord. Cars are coming and people are walking. It was good seeing you.
It's good seeing you. At least I know you're still alive and well.
Well, you too.
I want to see those doggies.
Okay, next time I'll bring him out. He was, every night he'd walk by and I'd be like, where is she? And he'd be like, she didn't want to come.
Yes, I do, but I'm home cooking for him.
Oh. Have a good one. Enjoy your weekend. It was so good seeing her. So Trader Joe's has these little ice cream cones. They're literally like this big. So the cheesecake ones that I've shown you guys, they're smaller than that. They're like really, really small. Everybody's trying to say that they closed the pool because we're under contract. We're under contract. They closed the pool the day, Labor Day under contract. Because we have to like clean gutters and stuff. I wasn't going to get into it with her, but because I love her too much. But like, there's special money set aside for the gutters. So that doesn't come out. They just wanted to close the pool because nobody wanted to deal with the pool anymore. And the reality is, besides Laura and I, there's only like 5 people that go to the pool. And so like, other than people that bring their grandkids. And by then the grandkids were back at school. But the pool's closed. I'm over it now. But on days when it's like 85, like when I was sitting out here earlier doing my prayers and meditations and stuff, it was so nice out here. I was like, I could probably, like, I have these stupid like Nike slides on, and I was like, I gotta take my shoes off because I'm gonna have tan lines on my feet because it was so nice out here. I'm not, like, you know what's so funny is, I kind of joke about closing the pool. Really, to be honest with you, I probably, in all sincerity, would not have gone up. All sincerity and all honesty, I probably wouldn't have gone up to the pool that much anyway, this last month. So it's whatever. It's more of a joke when I bring it up. I know people are like, you're bitter about that pool. I'm like, I am bitter about the pool. I mean, it's whatever. But I probably wouldn't have gone up that much anyway. I mean, definitely not, like, I'm in the fall mood now. So even if, like, the pool was open right now, and it would be cold, because at night, like last night it got into the 50s. So the pool's going to be cold, even if it's 85. It's going to be cold during the day. I'm not going to, I'll be like, talk myself out of it. So it's more of a joke when I bring up the pool and stuff like that. Y'all know that, right? Now, last year, the year before, like, I was probably pretty hot about the pool. But no, this year, I'm over the pool. If I take up pickleball, I'm sure they'll want to close the pickleball courts down early because they're just trying to make my life miserable in here. No, I love my neighbors. I can hear them. They're over there talking right now to somebody. Somebody with a dog. Their dog, so they have, I think their dog is 3 or 4 years old, and it's this big standard poodle. So the other woman that walks by with the standard poodle, they have like, their dogs look like twin brothers, and they're not related at all. But they're like cut, they're not cut like, some people cut poodles real fancy. They're not like, they're like grown out, and they look like brothers, both of them. They're just like cut the exact same way. They're both real sweet. Both of them are real good with Otis and Walter, but their dog is like really, really good with Otis and Walter. What is this? Someone's getting their air conditioning fixed. But when he's walked by and I've been out there with Otis and Walter on my leashes, like they'll walk over and I'll be like, can I bring them over? And he's like, yeah, sure. And their dog just like sits down on the ground, and Walter and Otis are just like sniffing him and stuff like that. Anyway, You know what? I don't even know how long I've vlogged at this point now. So I'm going to get off here now. Oh, I'm going to get off here now and go inside. Now y'all know what I did. And we also had another deep conversation. So if you guys have things you want me to talk about, put in the conversation below and I'll try to just like weave it into what I'm talking about or read one of your comments and do it. But I love having those kind of conversations. Those are the conversations I love having. So thank you guys for bringing that up yesterday. It really meant a lot to me, those comments. I think sometimes people are like kind of like afraid to say that. Like, I really liked this because then I think people are sometimes worried that I'll hear it as a criticism. I don't at all. Like, every video on every channel that I make because I want you guys to enjoy them. Like, you know, I know that like the Lifetime movie reviews don't like, it's not like people are tearing down, you know, to go see those videos, but like, I think that they're funny and I'm going to do like, you know, more recent movie reviews and stuff like that. But like, I like to do videos about things that people enjoy. So, you know, it's like the other day, somebody said I hadn't done beauty influencer drama on my drama channel. So I turned around and I did beauty influencer drama because I want to do videos that make people happy, you know? It's also important that I do videos that I enjoy too, but I make the videos for people to enjoy and for it to be an escape and especially for this to be like an escape and a safe place for people. And so, I want to make videos that you guys enjoy. So those comments meant a lot to me. I really, really appreciate it. And it kind of like gave me a little more direction on what a lot of you over here like to hear about. And I do know that a lot of you guys like to hear about the TV shows and the books and stuff, so that's not going to stop. And it's not to say that every vlog that I do is going to be like me having a deep conversation about my past, because it's just, I can't do that every vlog. But if it goes there, we'll have the conversation. So thank you guys for saying it. It meant a lot to me. And it just means a lot to me that you watch my vlogs. I appreciate it, you know, in any of my videos. So I hope you guys are having a fantastic Friday. And do I say fantastic? What do I say? I hope you guys are having a magically amazing Friday, a fantastic Friday, and a fantastic beginning to your weekend. And if nobody else has told you this today, I love you guys, and I will see you tomorrow. Bye. Love ya.